Thank you. So we run different children's services where we look after vulnerable young people aged 16 and above, usually up to 16 to about the age of 21 or 25. But also we run businesses where we are supporting vulnerable young children in children's residential homes. So looking at younger children, they could be the age 8, 10, all the way up to 18. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And I like to consider myself as an entrepreneur, mentor, and a leader. And lucky enough, I've been that has been recognized, and I've been nominated as Entrepreneur of the Year by the African Business Chambers, which is in London next Thursday. I was actually saying that if only I had a bit of the Zano strategy where I can actually make sure that I can win, it might be good. So who knows, it might happen. But I also support all those that are looking to get into business as a business advisor, business mentor. So I've got various clients at different stages in their journey, whether they're just looking to start up their businesses in children's services, or maybe they've been supporting adults, vulnerable adults, doing dom care, or any other different sector, but maybe they now want to branch into children's services. So if you do need some mentoring, we've got various business packages, mentoring packages that I can support you with. So children in care, just to quickly give a summary, what you're looking at is you've got families where it might be mum and dad, or it might be stepdad, and it might just be that there's alcohol abuse, there's substance misuse, or maybe mental health issues, or a very serious illness that means that the children that are being looked after in that family setting, local authority now have to step in because either there is neglect or there is risk to that child. So those children are children that come into care. Just as a bit of a multiple choice question here, how many children do we think are being supported by local authorities nationwide? And I'm going to be using 2023 statistics here, but just who thinks they know the answer? Not quite. 83,840. And this is looking at the statistics in March 2023. But however, as you can see, that's actually an increase of 2% from 2022's figures. This is what's really interesting for me, that you've actually got 33,000 children that are coming into care in that year 2023. So what that means is that the children that could no longer stay with their families either had to go into fostering, had to go into children's residential homes, or had to go into 16 plus provision. That was the increase that took place in 2023, and that was a 6% increase from 2022. Something even more interesting. How does the profit of 300 million sound?
It gets into your pocket.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, yes, if it gets into your pocket, how does it sound? 300 million a profit. It's great, isn't it? The only thing I must say is that these are like the top 4 providers nationwide. That's the profit that they made. But if you were to get, I don't know, 10% of that, 5% of that, 30 million, 15 million, it's not too bad, is it? Okay. So we can actually get into this sector and try and look at making money. But I want to put a disclaimer on this because it's not about making money though. If you see those pictures that we had earlier on where I was showing you about the birthday celebration that we had for those 4 young boys, they were really, really touched. All 4 of them. And they were saying to me, Webster, you know, this is something that we'll never forget. And another very interesting story, if I was actually to go back to those pictures, one of those boys who was a staff member was actually in one of our homes 5 years ago. He's a young Eritrean boy who came to us when he was 17, And when he was talking to me, I was saying, Webster, I want to be a social worker. And so we've always kept in touch. He's doing well in his college. He's really improved his English tremendously. And now he's coming and working part-time whilst he's at college. And he's one of the boys that was in the picture there, supporting now the other young boys who are about to leave our provisions. So it's about making impact. And trust me, when that happens, the local authorities will come running to you. And that 300 million that you are seeing, that 5% that you want, that's when that can now happen. So it's not just all about profit, but the money is there to be made. But what are the barriers, maybe, to us actually being able to get into this sector? I'm going to touch on three key ones. Startup capital. Second one, recruiting and retaining qualified staff. And Ofsted standard regulations that they're too stringent to actually be able to adhere to. A lot of my mentees, when they initially come to me, they're really saying, do you know what, we really hear that Ofsted is just another beast. Those who are actually Ofsted, we've got here Nyasha. I'm sure you can attribute to the scrutiny that happens when you're dealing with Ofsted and others that are involved with Ofsted. But you know what? Although it might be tightly regulated, that means when you get it right, you can actually build a very sustainable business and you can actually do well. So where you might see a barrier, that is actually an opportunity to actually be able to capitalize on. And we'll just touch on how you can do that very quickly. So startup capital. How much do I need? So children's services, there's quite a lot of different areas that you could go into. Some of you might be keen on maybe setting up a nursery. That's also part of children's services. Some of you might be keen on a fostering agency, considering to do that. But the two main ones that I'm going to be speaking on is children's residential homes and supported accommodation provisions. And obviously, the main question I do get asked is how much does it cost for me to actually start up this business? So what is the startup capital that's needed? Between about 120 to 140,000. So this lady here was quite close. Why do we think that's so expensive? Why do we think that? Right now it's taking almost a year for your home to get registered with Ofsted. But before you actually register your home, you need to have employed your manager. And your managers, you're looking between 50 to 70K. So that's a very big cost there. And then obviously you've got other costs in relation to the property that you're going to secure, the planning permission that's needed there, or does it already have the adequate planning permission? Any renovations you're going to have to make to the home. But also, even when you do get registered, it doesn't mean that next day you're going to have a child in the house. It won't be like that. You might wait a month, 2 months. And even once you got your child, it doesn't mean that that next month the local authority are going to pay you. Some might take 4 or 5 months to then pay you. But your staff, they don't want to hear those stories from you. They just want to get paid. Okay, so the next one. So now we're going to look at 16 plus. So we're looking at sort of teenagers, 16 and 17-year-olds. Sometimes you may keep them slightly longer to maybe, 6 or 7 months after they've turned 18. So how much do we think we need to set up that type of provision? So you're looking between about 40 to 50,000 approximately. And once again, this also depends on sort of the size of the particular supported accommodation home that you're looking at wanting to set up. So these are some of the startup capital, and this shouldn't be a barrier to you. It's a challenge that's being presented to you. Anything in business, there's always going to be an element of risk, and there's always going to be capital involved. You can go into partnerships, business partnerships. You can ask people to come and invest into your business if you've got a sound business plan. Or if you've got a sound business plan, you can also look at getting some loans or some grants. So those are some of the things that we look at when you come and engage me to help you set up and launch your children's services home. So don't see the money as a barrier. Some people, what they've managed to do is they've initially started off with supported accommodation, and as they've been building their capital, as they've been reinvesting into their business, they've then launched into children's residential homes. That was the particular model that we took ourselves. We started off initially in supported accommodation, and then we moved on to children's residential homes. I think this has been touched initially by Godfrey, so I'm not going to dwell on this one too much, but I just want to highlight just some of the critical things that we need to consider here. So recruiting and retaining qualified staff.